Having come to the end of our R&D phase of Give Me Space and our recent trip to York to perform at the I'm Me Festival, Confico have been reflecting on the impact of the work on a variety of audiences. We started by sharing Give Me Space as a work in progress at Elevate, which is an accessible conference which is for inclusive and disabled-led arts organisations. What was particularly striking about the audience feedback at that event was other artists with experience of learning disability or neurodiversity absolutely were recognising messages in the piece and themes in the piece that are relevant to their lives, and it was stimulating a conversation in our feedback session that felt like it had much more depth and breadth and would go beyond the stage, out of the auditorium and into the world.
Me being a lot of time on the spectrum, and sometimes very hard for me with myself, because I really have a moment where I really wanted to express myself, but I struggle. So yeah, a lot of stuff about me, it reflects, so like a mirror.
The written word is so powerful to make us do things, but we can also read it off and write new stories.
We also performed Give Me Space at one of our partner schools to young people with learning disabilities themselves, and what was particularly striking in that audience was the level of focus and silence and interest in the work. You could have absolutely heard a pin drop whilst Give Me Space was being performed.
It definitely does give people all their themes. I can dance in front of millions of people, thousands of people, by telling what has been affecting me. Especially in the I'm Me project, we get to speak of what we want for the world to change. I was able to say stuff about me and what's been affecting me, and how to explain what's affecting me to other people who wouldn't understand, because they're not in the same space as me or group as me. So the performance being about me, I get to express myself to others. They're like, they go that's what it means by, they mean by that.
The outcome of the I'm Me National Research Project was seeing learning disabled and autistic artists telling their stories and having their voices heard on stage and on screen.
And Giving Me Space has given us a voice in areas we didn't usually have a voice in, and we can now speak in research, and now we can be asked what we want and think. The performance has stepped into research. So then when we research, they ask doing groups now, instead of we usually get walk past, but now since the Me project, we are now going to be asked become part of the research as well.
Across the board, the audience feedback from Give Me Space has been audiences wanting to hear more of the voice and perspective of the dance artists.
Is now that we've come from being at York, from the bigger stage, we are now using this rooms a lot bigger. It's not as small, because we used to be all clumped up together, and now we can use the space a lot wider.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because also the idea of the demand that we borrowed from, I think, Brooke, it was you that had inspired our title about Give Me Space, something that we wanted more. We wanted to take up more space. We don't want to be small. Right. By performing our piece more and more, we're actually taking up more space and demanding more space, and our piece is now bigger as a result of that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thought. The richness and depth of the subject matter in Give Me Space has such potential to grow and develop into a bigger work to further amplify the voices of learning disabled and autistic artists in the arts. we want to speak back to some of these stories that we're hearing in the news if it's about disability,
Yes. Because
particularly disability.
I think I don't think half of the people are going to understand what we've gone through throughout our lives.
The time invested during the 2 years of research for the I'm Me project stimulated rich conversation about the dancers' lived experience of learning disability and neurodiversity that uncovered a depth and breadth of perspectives, stories, and opinions. These conversations sometimes resulted in the dancers finding meeting points and unity, coming together in a way that they did not know existed within the company, whilst also uncovering and embracing conflicting opinions and perspectives, uncovering a detailed picture of learning disability and neurodiversity. The landscape for those with lived experience of learning disability is often islanded. People are not being asked for their opinion, not being heard. Their perspectives are missing from wider society. Did that feel important to also have the film element?
Yes, because it's coming from me and no one else.
As a company, we're exploring ways that our dancers' voices can be amplified and heard. Some of the creative decisions within Give Me Space address this, using verbatim recording to make sure at times that the dancers' messages are explicit and not left open to interpretation. It was essential that the time was invested in the conversation and reflection in order to clarify what was most important for the dance artists to say. What was it that they wanted to use their voices for, and what they wanted to communicate to audiences? Equally, the piloting of the choreographic toolkit gave a framework for developing and amplifying the messages the dancers wanted to communicate. This creative development ran parallel to the conversations happening, which allowed the dancers to be really clear in formulating what they wanted to say, and then utilising the creative tools to add colour and impact to the messages they wanted to share.
Practice it. I wanted to be in the centre.
In a line?
Spread apart. Move your arms round so you don't hit anyone next to you.
The results choreographically were really rich, a notable range of gesture, explicit movement, and with more explosive, bold movements that demands more space physically. These experiences and conversations required more physical room on the stage, and that was really clear to see in the choreography.
Because you were thinking about who the audience was.
Yes.
So when they were performing in the middle, who were you imagining?
I was thinking of like families with young kids, because if it's in the front, it might the kids whoa, like the big stomps in it, they're like whoa.
So the feeling of not wanting to thinking about who it is you're performing to, and not wanting to upset or be too intense for particular people, particularly you were thinking about young children. And then we talked about if it was adults
would be a bit more closer, because then they'd be more involved in it.
Yeah, and what were we talking about with the
message, the message whoa.
Yeah, giving it that feeling. I feel like we haven't quite got a word for it, but that feeling of being right, giving them a wallop of what it is we're trying to say.
The impact of Give Me Space has shown us what's possible when learning disabled and autistic voices take centre stage. We're driven to grow this work within and alongside the communities it belongs to, reaching wider audiences, creating space for more stories, and nurturing a culture where learning disabled and autistic people are not just represented, but are driving the conversation.